Yo there guys, this is Cob, and this is the first video of a requested series that will cover Warlock pet control. Each video will be about a different Warlock pet, covering how and where they should be used, along with any useful macros I like to use along the way. This video will cover one of the most underrated Warlock pets, the Imp. First, an ultra quick overview of the pet itself for anyone new to the Warlock class, or who has just never actually used the Imp for PvP before. The Imp is a ranged damage dealing pet whose abilities include Cauterize Master, which is a slow ticking heal over time ability that he or she casts on the Warlock, as you can see here. The Imp can also get itself out of trouble by using the Flee ability to leap back to its master, but most impressive of all, the Imp can dispel one harmful magic effect using Singe magic every 10 seconds from its master. If you spec into Grimoire of Supremacy, the dispel becomes an AoE dispel. If you summon a second Imp with Grimoire of Service, that Imp will just assist you with basic damage, and sacrificing your Imp with the third Grimoire will grant you the ability to dispel either yourself or friendly targets. Now we'll go for some essential and some optional macros you can use to get the most out of your Imp. First, the Cauterize Master and Flee macro. This is an optional macro which I use to drag my Imp towards me as he lands his Cauterize heal over time on me. This is pretty much just in case he is out of range when I need that heal. The Big Heals and Cauterize Master macro. This is pretty much just a Healthstone and Dark Regen macro with the Cauterize Master ability thrown in there too, and the result is 3 separate HOTS ticking on you at once for some nice extra heals. And finally, the Singe Magic Arena macro. This is basically your Imp's single target dispel macroed to be cast on a specific player, usually my healer, but in this case, my beautiful assistant Sophie. Alright, so when should we be using the Imp and with which Grimoire talent? Battlegrounds first. Battlegrounds are unique in that pretty much any pet goes, and the Imp is no exception. Grimoire of Supremacy though is my talent of choice for Imp Battleground PvP, and that is pretty much for the Seer magic ability, which is pretty much a master spell. You can see me spamming it on cooldown here to dispel as many debuffs as I can from my teammates, and we actually end up winning this group fight at LM. While I don't think it was a massive deal that I was spamming MD on my partners and teammates throughout this entire fight, I do think with the amount of magic dots that I must have dispelled during this fight, I probably ended up mitigating somewhere in the range of a few 100k damage during the entire fight. The dispel is also useful for 1v1 still, as you can see here, and using the Imp's heal over time ability, although not a huge deal, is still pretty nifty to have. You can see me using it here with the big healing macro I showed earlier in the video. With it I pop Healthstone, Dark Regeneration, while also having my Imp cast Cauterize Master. Now as for Grimoire of Service, there is no real reason to be using a regular non-supremacy Imp in Battlegrounds. It deals less damage and has only a single target dispel, which is much less useful. Also, when you summon a secondary Imp using Service, it only deals basic damage and casts no special abilities, unlike a Fell Hunter, which will spell lock upon being summoned. Sacrificing an Imp with Grimoire of Sac isn't very beneficial in Battlegrounds either. Sacrificing an Imp lets you use its single target Singe magic dispel, which can be useful, but in most cases it's going to be much less useful than the Fell Hunter's spell lock or even a Succubus Whiplash, which could instead be gained from sacrificing a pet. Okay, now for arenas, which are an entirely different game to Battlegrounds. Things take a bit of a U-turn for the Grimoire of Supremacy. While it's arguably the strongest talent of choice for the Imp in Battlegrounds, it isn't so great in arenas. The AoE dispel will only be hitting 3 players at the absolute maximum, and because it has to be manually aimed using your mouse, it can actually make tasks such as dispelling healers from traps much more of a hassle rather than easier. And this means that it is barely any better at all really than the Grimoire of Service Imp. Their heal over time ability they can cast on you, Cauterize Master, also isn't going to do much at all to save you from a coordinated burst in the arena. But the main problems with both Supremacy and the Service Imp is that they can be CC'd or more often killed. And this is a good move by the enemy team, as without your Imp you have no dispel. So this is where Sacrifice comes in. Grimoire of Sacrifice against Hunter teams is something I almost always use, so I gain the use of Singe magic to use myself. Then using the macro I showed earlier in the video, every time my healer calls out that he has been CC'd, I just dispel him instantly. This is pretty much overpowered, to be honest, but I don't care because I hate hunters in arena right now, so if this is how to screw them over, this is what I'm going to do. So all in all, I think if you're going to run with an imp in Battlegrounds, it should be with a Grimoire of Supremacy, as it will help out your team a lot more with those AoE dispels in big group battles. I would use the imp in Battlegrounds when I'm going to be focusing on team play or I'm playing with a group of friends. The imp is not suited to solo playstyles in Battlegrounds. In arenas against hunter teams, especially comps like Hunter Ret, I use my imp with Grimoire of Sacrifice, and there's basically no way they can CC chain your healer, as you're able to instantly dispel magic effects from him on a 10-second cooldown. But I still sacrifice a Fell Hunter against any teams other than hunter teams. Alright guys, this was the first of a series on pet control. I hope you learned something new about some imp gameplay up in here. The next video will cover everything I know about fell puppies. Until then though, thank you so much for watching, like, subscribe, and I will see you all later.